Good evening and welcome back to Prime of Midlife. It is Friday evening. Patrick and I have just had dinner with Kathleen. Patrick treated us to a Chinese. So the weekend has begun. I hope you've had a good week, or if it's been as exhausting as Mandy and I's, I hope you have a lovely weekend. This evening I am talking about people of a certain age. And I was basically it was because of work. Mandy and I have had an exceptionally busy week at work because our other colleague has been off on holiday. So it's been quite hectic to say the least. And I was thinking while we were working, and I had the discussion with Mandy, we're actually really good at what we do. You know, it's been a long time until I've been able to say that and actually say it with conviction. Because for so many years, I think we are still of that generation where many of us, especially females, had to be seen and not heard. And then we grew up and we did what was expected of us. Whether, if you were a guy, you maybe followed your father into, the steel mills or into the retail business or whatever business your father was in, a lot of the time you followed. And it was only really when I was leaving school that there was the thing with what about college, what about university? It started becoming open to more people. So our lives changed. Um, but I think there's still a bit of a hangover with how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive what we should be. And again, it comes down to what our parents' expectations were for us, what the rest of our family's expectations were, and then what our husband, wife, brother, sister, anybody, what our children's expectations were. And it's quite liberating when you get to our age to say, actually, I'm quite good at this. And it seems Mandy and I are very good at being fixers. Now, for the longest time, I thought that made us, obviously quite special because we could fix anything. And then just recently I worked it out and went, nope, that's what people of a certain age are good at. Because obviously we've been children, then we've been adults. For many of us, we've been parents. We've looked after children, then we've looked after older parents. We have learned how to deal with so much. And for a lot of younger people, they just don't have those experiences, especially for taking a look at Kathleen and I. Now, I'm 58, Kathleen's 28. Not quite 58 yet, but you know what I mean. I'm 30 years older than Kathleen. My mum's only 20 years older than me. So Kathleen hasn't had to deal with looking after her grandparents that much. That's been my job. And because I've realised how much it took out of me and what I need, I am being damnably sure that I make things an awful lot easier for Kathleen. And I think that's been a huge part of our generation, is that we have made things so much easier for those coming behind us. If we struggled as kids, if our parents struggled, we want to make things easier for our family. We want to make it that it's not as difficult for them. We want to give them the better education, the better social life, the better hobbies, better holidays. And for many of us, that has worked. And they've had a much better life than we have. But it has meant that their problem-solving skills are not particularly on point with ours. And I think that's a shame. I think that's a fabulous skill to have. And certainly Mandy and I's boss loves the fact that he has people of a certain age working there who are able to think on their feet, who are able to go, right, okay, what's the problem? What's the fixing? Like today we had a problem with it was a cooker hob, a gas hob. And the bit on the top where your pots sit on, it had broken and it needed to be fixed. So Mandy went looking for it, and the hob was so old, they don't make spares for it anymore. And we're like, oh my goodness. And the guy who was working there is like, what are we going to do? How are we going to get it? And then we're like, welding. We know welders. Get welders. And we've got a guy at work who can weld. So he is going to spot weld it and put it back together again. Problem solved. That took us possibly less than 5 minutes. But it seemed a huge problem, which turned into something much smaller. And I think us midlifers, or primies, as Kathleen has decided to call us, because seemingly it's a good thing to have a shortened name for your channel followers, so we're primies. We'll see. But I think that is a skill, and I think it's a skill that we have a lot of, and I think it's something we should be proud of. So yes, yet again, we've got through the week. It's Friday evening, tea, chocolate biscuits, wine, crisps, snacks, you name it, go enjoy it. Personally, I'm going for a hot bath. I had Kathleen put the water heater on earlier. I am going to relax in a hot bath, then come down the stairs and pour myself a drink. So have a great evening, and I'll catch you later.